So that's it for this component communication module. Again, another big module with a lot of important concepts taught, but in the end, really just a couple of core concepts which you need to keep in mind to let your components talk to each other. Now, in general, components are used to build user interfaces by combining them. The great thing about components is that you can encapsulate logic in a template and split your code into multiple smaller pieces, and that you can also reuse components, for example, components that encapsulate list items. Components then form parent-child relations automatically. If you use component B in the template of component A, then component A is a parent of component B, which would be the child in this case. And if you have a component C in the template of component B, C is a child of B and also kind of a child to component A. That is what I talked about throughout this module and what you saw in action as well. And this matters because when we talk about component communication, you need to keep in mind that Vue uses unidirectional data flows for communication. So basically that we have ways of passing data down to a component or also up from a component using a different concept. Well, and these are the concepts. For passing data down, we have props. This allows us to pass data from a parent to a child. So props are used for just that, and we should define props in advance in that child component which will receive them. You can either just specify an array to let Vue know about the props you want to receive, or you go into greater detail and you also let Vue know which type of data you're expecting, whether a prop is required, and all of that. You saw that in great detail throughout this module as well. If you need the other direction, so from child to parent, you need custom events. A component can emit a custom event with help of the built-in $emit method to let a parent component know about something and to trigger code or trigger a method in the parent component. Custom events also can carry data, as you saw throughout this module, so that you, for example, can forward data the user entered into some input fields, the ID of something which was selected, or whichever data you need in your use case. So we have parent-child and child-parent communication. What we don't have here is neighbor communication. So if we have two sibling elements. And I talked about this throughout the module as well. If you have a scenario where two neighbor components need to exchange data, you will in the end always use the common parent component of these two sibling components, store the data in there, and then talk to that parent from each sibling and pass the data down to the respective sibling components that need the data. So you always have parent-child in the end. You don't have sibling communication or anything like that. Sometimes you have the scenario that you have a lot of components in the way through which you need to pass your data or your custom event. And for that you got this provide inject pattern, which I showed you at the end of this module. If your data needs to travel through a lot of components, which basically just pass that data through with help of props or custom events, then you might want to consider provide inject. That allows you to provide data in a parent component and then inject it into any child component, no matter how deeply nested it is, without passing the data through multiple levels of components with props or custom events. Now, as I mentioned, don't use provide inject to replace all your props or custom events with it. Instead, really only use it if you need this long-range communication, you could say. And that really is all you need to know about component communication at this point. Make sure you understood the concepts taught in this module, and with that, let's advance and let's dig deeper into Vue and into components.